What would you tell a millennial or on college campus, millennials, young people who at the same time as seeing the anti-Semitism, they're very used to being Democrats and perhaps they're even more liberal on social issues. What can this movement do for them? What draws them to this?
Well, this movement isn't about necessarily supporting Donald Trump. I mean, I'm on the Trump campaign. I support the president. You don't have to. You don't have to want to be a Republican. But if you're a Jew and you realize that the Democrats are simply taking the Jewish vote for granted, I mean, the most amazing response to JEXODUS has been all over the place. The left, the leftist media has been saying, oh, it's ridiculous. Everyone knows Jews are going to vote 70+% for Democrats anyway. This is a waste of time. As though that's an argument against the movement. That's literally the argument for the movement. They're saying no matter what we do, the Jews are going to vote for us, so we might as well treat them like trash. No more. Enough exploitation. It's time for the Jews to say, you know what, we're Americans, and in this country, we're Americans first. But we have to protect ourselves against those who hate us.
Right. Well, I think this woman who works for Bernie Sanders is a perfect example of what you're saying, because she didn't use a racial slur. She didn't use a particular insult. There wasn't one word that you pull out and say, oh, that's not an appropriate word to use. That's insulting. No, it is her underlying sentiment. I want to read what she says again. She says, this is a serious question, she writes. Do you not think that the American government and American Jewish community has a dual allegiance to the state of Israel? That is not, the underlying sentiment there is not ignorance. The underlying sentiment is not necessarily an insult. She doesn't need to apologize for the language that she used, because that's how she, in her apology, she said, I apologize for the language. It's not the language, it's the philosophy, the attitude, the underlying fundamental belief that Jews, because of their Jewish religion, their Jewish faith, cannot have allegiance to the U.S. Constitution or the United States of America. That is offensive.
100%. It is offensive. And again, it's not so much the language they use, it's the underlying thesis. It's the thought process. Jews are other, not just Jews are other, but Jews are sort of evil other. And it's unfortunately, this is literally the oldest story. It is from the Bible. That's what Pharaoh says, right? Pharaoh says that, oh, these Jews, they're outsiders and they're going to join with their enemies and fight us. But this story plays itself out. I mean, next week we're celebrating the holiday of Purim, which is the famous story of Queen Esther. It's what Haman says, the same one, before he decides to get a decree to kill all the Jews, which he wins that decree to kill all the Jews. The Jews are saved thanks to Queen Esther, but the truth is, it's the exact same argument. He tells the king, he says, oh, there's this people that's spread out among all your kingdoms, but they have their own laws, and they keep their own ways, and you can't trust them. This has been going on for thousands of years, and now it's right here in the heart of America, in Washington, D.C., and the Democratic Party has not yet been willing to face it or confront it or fight it, and they have to. And that's what JEXODUS is about. JEXODUS doesn't say you have to be a Republican, doesn't say you have to love Donald Trump, although those are good things, but it does say you cannot belong to a party that takes you for granted and allows this kind of anti-Semitism to fester and spread.